a motorcycle an immediate connection to a rider. I think that's part of the draw, just the raw visceral nature of being strapped to a machine. We just feel it through your body. You know what the engine's doing without having to look at the gauge, take your eyes off the road. For me, it's all about doing. I learn through doing. I'm particularly fascinated by new interfaces. That might be a motorcycle, or it's a synthesizer, or a machine tool. They're all different interfaces. And so I don't spend a whole lot of time researching. I spend a lot of time doing, making. I started a robotics company just sort of organically. I don't have a background in robotics. I've become pretty adroit at bending a technology to an idea. My father was an engineer, so I had a shop at my house. I was always fascinated by taking apart anything I could get my hands on. I started building remote control helicopters, then I started to get into machining so that I could make my own parts for them. And so I bolted a DSLR camera onto a CNC mill, and I started using it to do extremely precise sub-millimeter accurate photography. And that was actually the start of Bot and Dolly, was shooting food and small electronics. And it kind of just grew from there to 2-ton robots shooting Hollywood pictures. Very proud of the movie Gravity. I think if you're gonna shoot a movie in space with robots, do that one. I have a lot of difficulty describing what Bot and Dolly was. Was it a film studio? Was it a robotics company? It was always something different. Every month you'd walk in there, you wouldn't recognize the place. One day it's snowing, the next day it looks like the set of E.T. It was about putting the right people and toys in the right box, shaking it, and seeing what came out the other side. I would stand on the mezzanine, I would look down at the studio and say, how the did this happen? We also were pretty well known for our film box, which was a novel application of projection mapping plus robotics. I super appreciate people taking something that you think has some application and applying it to something else. You know, what does it mean when you introduce a laser cutter to a chef? Or, you know, in my universe, it was taking a very traditional robot and putting a camera on it and shooting a Hollywood film. That's not what you expect a welding robot to do. When I think about music, again, it's about the interface. Some of the most interesting music that I've written has been on things like a Nintendo Game Boy. It doesn't sound anything like what I wrote on a guitar. You're programming the music instead of playing it, you're writing it in a sequencer. It's the fact that you're using a D-pad and you're going up, down, A, B, whereas when I pick up a guitar, I just fall back into the habits of a guitar player. I started playing guitar in high school, I think when I realized that girls existed, but I also play drums, ukulele, play bass, I play piano, and I'm attempting banjo. Everything I touch, I write different types of music on. I also think there's something about the immediacy of thinking and playing. It's a very short circuit, and it has to be instinctual. You just do it. And I think it's the same when you're riding a bike. It's moving without thinking. You understand the RPM without looking down at the gauge. You can feel everything about it. You get a dynamism out of those moments when you make a shift. It's that adrenaline rush of freedom. There's something to discover. And so I think that's what draws me to it, to be honest. The bikes that I like are generally naked and exposed. You can see the frame, you can see the suspension, you can see the engine. It's digestible, it's understandable, and it's fascinating. Like, if I look at my career, I'd say that it's a mixture of art and technology. I think there's a pretty clear corollary between that and a motorcycle, especially an Aprilia. It's very much an object that is highly designed, yet incredibly technical. It wakes up a kid inside, right?